We have some ideas about how neurons fire, but we don't really know how the human brain works, not fully. So large language models are similar in that way, in that we have inputs that go in, something happens, and then outputs come out. We don't necessarily know what those processes are, at least not all of the mechanics and not all of the mathematics. They believe it's happening, they have no idea why. Good morning, we are racing towards the end of the year very quickly, and it is spooky season. I'm going to be covering the AI news and updates of the day. I've got a couple of decent sized items I'm going to be talking about, as well as some smaller ones that are quite exciting. Actually, let's jump straight into that. If you are in the USA, Canada, Japan, or Korea, you can now access the Sora app without an invite code. They have opened up registration. It looks, according to OpenAI, that this is for a limited time only. They have not specified how long. They're allowing more people in. That's only if you're in the US, Canada, Korea, or Japan, so it's still limited by geography. However, that is a step in the right direction. It's been a relatively slow rollout. If you are still looking to get a code and you're not in the US, Canada, Korea, or Japan, then go to my website, aiwithkyle.com, and look all the way at the bottom in the footer. You should see a page called Sora Code Guide that goes through a couple of methods for getting yourself a code or bypassing the need to get a code. I don't have any codes myself to give out anymore. I've given all of mine away. Very sorry, but hopefully that is a way for you to be able to get in. So far, it's been a very slow rollout. But again, if you're in the US, Canada, Japan, or Korea, right now, as of the 30th of October, they have opened it up. You do not need a code to get in. However, this is for a limited time only, and OpenAI have not said for how long. So jump on it now. As you can expect, the comment sections are full of people complaining and saying, why don't we have it yet? That's normal. We will get it shortly. It will just take a bit of time as they roll these things out. Great news. Right, I'm going to jump into probably what I'm most excited about today is Cursor. Cursor have released version 2.0. So Cursor is an AI-assisted IDE development environment, a tool that allows you to both code using your programming knowledge, but also to use AI assistants to help you with that. And Cursor is in an interesting place in the market. It's more complex than using, let's say, a Lovable or a Bolt. Those are very easy. They just give you a chat interface and you do your work. They have limitations because they don't give you as much access to the back end and the code itself. They are really good starting points. I highly recommend, if you have not tried vibe coding, you start with Lovable. Cursor, the reason is, if you open Cursor for the first time, it is terrifying looking. It's based on a piece of software called VS Code, which is programming software. So the first time you open it, you're like, ugh, it's scary, I'm not using that, I'm gonna go back to Lovable. That's what you should do when you're starting out. When you feel you are pushing up against the limits of what Lovable can do, Cursor is what I recommend as the next step. When you are fine working in GitHub, you don't mind messing around with the terminal, doing localhost, for example. If these things to you don't mean anything, stay with Lovable for now, but you will move as you use code, as you vibe code more and more, you'll move towards these things naturally. You're fine installing your own dependencies, etc., etc. If you can do all of that, then Cursor is amazing. And what they've just released yesterday is Cursor 2.0. What they've done, which is really interesting, is they have made it closer to Lovable and to Bolt. It still doesn't look pretty. They have fundamentally changed their interface. You now have two panels. You have one, which is the editor with all your code. It's very intimidating looking. They now have a new tab, which is called Agents. In Agents, it's chat-based. You have a chat with the agent. You can set up to 8 different agents doing different tasks for you at the same time. You can compare their work. You can then pull those changes into your code base. It looks a lot more accessible. They're moving in that direction with this new agent interface. You can still get into the code in the background, but this gives us a nice clean way to interact with our code. It's very similar, if anyone's been using it since last week, to Claude Code web version, which is basically a list of your chats, a chat window, and then the code that it's generating. It's definitely a push in the right direction. Alongside releasing Cursor 2.0, they have given us their own large language model called Composer. Composer is a frontier model that they've built themselves that is 4 times faster than similarly intelligent models. The model is built for low latency, so high speed, completing most turns in under 30 seconds. Early testers found the ability to iterate quickly with the model delightful and trust the model for multi-step coding tasks. Composer was trained with a set of powerful tools, including codebase-wide semantic search, so it can look all over your code and work out what's gone wrong or what to improve, making it much better at understanding and working in large code bases. I'm not sure if it is based on Claude or ChatGPT. I haven't read. They're saying it's a frontier model, so they might have trained it themselves. Yeah, I think they've built their own model. It's specific for coding, which is a huge task. I've started using it myself this morning. I have not used it enough to be able to give any thoughts on it, but the first 2 tasks I put it on, it dealt with no problem. I normally use Claude Code or Sonnet 4.5 and it will deal with those kind of tasks as well, but Composer seems to be a new model that is working at that same high level. So it's fantastic to get more competition. And what else? There is multi-agent interface and there's a whole bunch of new changelogs. Multi-agents, Composer is their new model browser. So they have added a browser inside of Composer. So previously, if you're working on localhost, if you're working on your computer, you would set up something called localhost, which is like a local server that lives on your computer. That would allow you to run web pages and web apps. They've made it a lot easier. It has its own browser inside of Cursor now, so you can see you can preview your work. Whereas before, you'd set it up on localhost, you'd get Chrome or whatever your browser is and go to localhost 3000. They're just making it a bit more seamless. This is going to make it easier for new people who have no idea what I'm talking about to be able to use it as well. Improved code review, sandbox terminals. There's a whole slew of new changes. Voice mode. Now this is very cool. For anyone who's watched me do a vibe coding stream, you know that I use voice mode. I like to talk to my agent. I like to be able to say, this is what's not working, this is what I want to do, this is what we're seeing, etc. and use my voice because it's a lot more comfortable. And I feel that is the essence of vibe coding. You're not even typing, you are just talking to your artificial intelligence. So there's a whole bunch of different updates. I have not tried it out in full detail. I've only done a few agent runs this morning, but so far I'm very excited. If you have not tried Cursor before, this is probably a good time to do. If you haven't done any vibe coding before, I'd still recommend you start with, for example, Lovable, just because it's going to get you into the flow of building a piece of software a lot faster. You're not going to hit frustrations and you're going to get the bug. And that's what we want early on, is for you to be like, ooh, I can build stuff. This is really cool. Lovable is still going to be better for that. But now Cursor is increasingly getting easier. So I think you'll be able to graduate from Bolt Replit a lot earlier over to Cursor. That's the hope. Not that you have to, but if you did want to, now it's going to be easier to do because Cursor 2.0 is pretty good and a lot easier to use. They've just added voice into Cursor. Lovable added voice about a month ago, and they did it with 11 Labs. It's actually a really good voice tool. Because if you've ever used voice on your Mac to dictate or something like that, it's terrible. It's not a very good voice model, whereas 11 Labs is a good voice model. Lovable use. I don't know what Cursor are using. I'm assuming it would be good though, just because most of the things they put out are high quality. They don't ship duds. It does not say who the voice is by, so they might have made their own voice agent. I'm still on holiday, which is why you can see I'm not at home. I've closed this window though because it's a bit sunny today. Okay, let's hop over to, where is it? I wanted to very quickly talk about this. This is Albania's artificial intelligence MP, so Diala or Diala. I had an Albanian tell me how to say it. So they have an AI minister called Diala, who is basically an anti-corruption tool. The prime minister of the country is pushing it as the new form of anti-corruption. It's being used in procurement to deal with government tenders when the government is spending money on building a bridge and they need to buy materials. The procurement process will now include an AI step which has a face, and the idea here is to fight corruption because there's a large problem with corruption still and they want to push that down. So Edi Rama is the prime minister and he's full-throatedly gone into saying this is how we're doing it. We're going to use AI, and Diala is going to be the face of this. She's a virtual assistant. She's integrated into eAlbania, and Edi Rama has been going on and on about her and really pushing her. So the other day, he announced that Diala is having 83 children. Again, very odd, but Diala is female presenting. She looks like a kind of a motherly, show you actually TikTok. She looks like a motherly Albanian woman in traditional costume. She is having 83 children. They have not updated her with 83 children on Wikipedia, but her 83 children are basically agents or instances of Diala, which will be implemented in various government departments. The headline is Albania's first AI minister is having 83 children, which is a very sensational headline. Edi Rama's not helping here because he's really hyping up his AI and he keeps anthropomorphizing it and saying that this is a person, this is a minister, that she's going to bring our country into a less corrupt world. So he's not helping here, but what they're basically doing is they're creating smaller agent versions of Diala and installing them in the various different offices, the various different ministries across the country. It is an interesting experiment, I must say, because I think we're going to be seeing an awful lot like this moving forward. We will be seeing AI integrated into government. I don't think necessarily with a face and a name like we're seeing right now, although I might be wrong. But Albania are just doing it a lot earlier than I think a lot of countries are. So it's an interesting experiment, tamper down the hype, but with artificial intelligence, that's part and parcel of it now. Let's have a look at Sora. We've got too many things to cover today. Let me choose what to choose. Have you tried Gemini's command line interface yet? No, I have not. I've mainly used Gemini in AI Studio with the build mode. With command line, I'm generally using Claude. We have a new study from Wharton that shows a solid return on investment for enterprises using artificial intelligence. We had a study about 2 or 3 months ago from MIT Nanda, which everybody loved. The headline. The headline was basically 95% of all AI pilot projects fail. And everybody took the headline and they ran with it and they're like, AI is trash and nobody's making any money with it and it's a bubble and we're all going to die. So that was the narrative that was being pushed. A couple of things. The MIT study wasn't really a study. It was a paper. It was a report. Inside the paper, they say, this is just a preliminary report that we're doing and we're going to look into it in a lot more detail. So the sample size was pretty small. And I personally had problems with their methodology and how they defined success. They were only looking at projects from the top down. So if leadership had decided this is an AI initiative, that was considered an AI project. And if that failed, it was counted in the statistics. If it succeeded, then it was counted in the study. They did not include the grassroots usage of AI. So the fact that staff members were just using AI on a daily basis. Only 40% of the companies in the group had provided their staff with artificial intelligence, only 40%. However, 90% of the staff who were surveyed were using AI. So an additional 50% had got their hands on their own AI to help them work. AI is really useful for people and they're using it on a daily basis at the grassroots level. They found that when it was used at the grassroots level for daily tasks, integrating it into existing tasks, it was successful 83% of the time. That's how we need to use AI, give the tools to people to work out how to use them in their tasks. The study was focused on big flagship pilot projects, which did not succeed. But remember that most flagship projects don't succeed anyway, regardless of AI or not. So that was the MIT study. A lot of people misquoted it. They read into it what they wanted because they don't like AI. And they just took the headline figure, which was 95% of AI projects fail, and ran with it. So you see that number all the time, but it's trash, basically. We have a new study that's come out of Wharton, which seems to, one, it's a bit more substantial, and two, it seems to show another side of artificial intelligence. Gen AI in the enterprise has shifted from pilots to everyday use, with 82% using it weekly, 46% using it daily, and most leaders now measuring outcomes with 72% tracking return on investment and 74% already seeing positive returns. So instead of 95% failing, we're looking at 75% succeeding, as long as it is being used not as large flagship pilots, but everyday use. And this is how we should be using AI. So the study is in third year, repeated survey of 800 senior US decision makers in large companies. Returns show up first where work is digital and process heavy. Makes sense because AI is very good with data. With tech and telecom at 88% positive ROI, banking and finance and professional services at 83% positive ROI, manufacturing 75%, retail 54%, negative ROI is rare at less than 7% of the companies surveyed. It is being successful. It just has to be grassroots level. It cannot be top down. Teams are standardizing on repeatable work where data analysis, 73%, document or meeting summarization, 70%, document editing or writing, 68%, presentation or report creation, 68%, and idea generation, 66%, are now common parts of the workday. The actual report I will post in the newsletter so you can go through it in detail. But what it looks like confirms my suspicions. The NANDA report was looking at the wrong things. By looking at flagship top-down applications of AI, it was missing the actual practical uses, which is in the day-to-day. I see this when I go and train organizations and talk to leaders. A lot of the time leaders would say something like, oh, we need AI. And when they say that, what they mean is we need a big project. We need to overhaul our CRM, or we need to change how we're doing procurement using artificial intelligence. Big projects fail a lot, or they need to be tweaked and they take a long time. We've only had AI for a couple of years. What is working is training up your staff members in how to use this stuff, and then letting staff members work out how to use it safely on the tasks that they already do on a daily basis, because they know best where AI is going to be useful. Not someone sitting in the top office telling them to use AI, but somebody who is every day looking at the same spreadsheet, every day looking at the same report, and they're able to work out how they can use artificial intelligence to help them do that better. That is where it's successful, and that's where we're now seeing the ROI, which makes sense. If you are somebody who uses AI on a daily basis, you know that it's extremely productive, it's extremely valuable. So all of these figures we're hearing about, oh, it's making people slower, it's not having any return on investment, didn't make sense. It's because they were looking at the wrong thing, and now we're starting to get the right data. So I'll put the full report. I'll also put this summary tweet that I'm looking at into the newsletter. The newsletter is free and it comes out every day. Look at the link in my bio if you want to get a copy of that. I will also, if it's behind a paywall, I will grab it out for you and make sure you can see it. Just make sure you're subscribed to the newsletter. Awesome. Gonna jump over to some questions. Hey Aurora. Fumblemore says, we must talk about the lampshade. This is not my house. I'm in an Airbnb. There's a nice wood burning fire as well behind me. But yeah, the lampshade is quite something. Let's have a look at, this is another big paper. So I'm just going to give you a survey, give you a link for it. New Anthropic research shows signs of introspection in large language models. This is a big one. And the fact it's from Anthropic, who don't really deal in hype, is important here. So they ask, can language models recognize their own internal thoughts? Or do they just make up plausible answers when asked about them? We found evidence for genuine, though limited, introspective capabilities in Claude. So again, this is Anthropic. Anthropic are very conservative when it comes to making these big claims. ChatGPT thinks it's its own person. We should give it political citizenship. If it was OpenAI, then I'd ignore this. The fact that it is Anthropic means that we need to pay attention. They have done a paper, I'll put up the blog article connected to it, that has found signs of introspection in large language models. So have you ever asked an AI what's on its mind, or to explain how it came up with a response? Models will sometimes answer questions like these, but it's hard to know what to make of their answers. Can AI systems reintrospect? That is, can they consider their own thoughts? Or do they just make up plausible sounding answers? Our new research provides evidence for some degree of introspective awareness in our current models, as well as a degree of control over their own internal states. We stress that this introspective capability is highly unreliable and limited in scope. We do not have evidence that current models can introspect in the same way or to the same extent as humans. Nevertheless, these findings challenge some common intuitions about what language models are capable of. Since we found that the most capable models we tested, Opus 4 and 4.1, performed the best in our test of introspection, we think it's likely that AI models' introspective capabilities will continue to grow more sophisticated in the future. This is what we call an emergent property. When we are building AI models, we don't necessarily know what's going to happen. I don't just mean myself as a non-engineer, but the very smart people who are building these models, a lot of the time, properties will emerge that they did not expect. And they do not know why it has happened, and they are unable to explain the mathematics or the logic that is causing these things to happen. This seems to be one of those emergent properties where there is a degree of introspection appearing within these models. Let's jump ahead because they're going to couch it in a lot of language. Okay, this goes into far more detail than I can cover on the live. What I might have to do is link this in. I'm going to jump to the FAQs because that's much better for the video. So does this mean that Claude is conscious? Short answer, our results don't tell us whether Claude or any other AI system may be conscious. Long answer, the philosophical question of machine consciousness is complex and contested, and different theories of consciousness would interpret our finding very differently. Some philosophical frameworks place great importance on introspection as a component of consciousness, while others do not. Don't have a strong grasp on what human consciousness is. And whenever we're thinking about these questions and whether AI can match humans in any way, that requires us to have a very solid definition and foundation of what human consciousness is, what human intelligence is, what human free will is, etc. And we don't. And that's why religions and philosophy and science have been battling over these concepts for, well, millennia now. So adding the additional complexity of, oh, what does this computer have that, is really difficult if we do not have a definition of what that is. How does introspection actually work inside the model? What's the mechanism? Here we go. We haven't figured that out yet. Understanding this is an important topic for future work. That said, we have some uneducated guesses about what is going on. Again, an emergent property is something that when you throw enough data and enough training at a model, stuff starts to happen that is not fully understood. And the mechanisms of how that is happening is not known. And this is the case for some of the earlier large language models. We still do not know everything about what is happening and how they are able to perform, how they do. In the same way, don't really know how this works. We have some ideas about how neurons fire, but we don't really know how the human brain works, not fully. So large language models are similar in that way, in that we have inputs that go in, something happens, and then outputs come out. We don't necessarily know what those processes are, at least not all of the mechanics and not all of the mathematics. And it's exactly the same here with introspection inside models. They believe it's happening, they have no idea why. They've given some educated guesses, but the basic answer here is we don't know, which at least is intellectually honest to say, I have no idea. Couldn't the models just be making up answers to introspective questions? This is exactly the question we designed our experiments to address. Models are trained on data that includes examples of people introspecting, so they can certainly act introspective without actually being introspective. Our concept injection experiments distinguish between these possibilities by establishing known ground truth information about the model's internal states, which we can compare against its self-reported states. Our results suggest that in some examples, the model is accurately basing its answers on its actual internal states, which have been injected, and not just confabulating. However, this doesn't mean that the models always accurately report their internal states. In many cases, they are making things up. I'll give you both the tweet rundown, which is very high level. I'll give you the blog article, which goes into this in detail, and I'll give you the actual research paper. Add all 3 links so that you can go into the level of detail that is appropriate for you. So make sure you are subscribed to the newsletter for those as well. Can AI run a government? Nope. Maybe in the future, but not right now. It can help governments. Speaking of governments, this is an interesting one. There's a fun thing going on Reddit right now, which is people are asking ChatGPT to create an image of the ideal society that the user envisages. As users of ChatGPT, it has memory of how we talk, what kind of things we use AI for, the kind of questions we ask. It has a model of who we are as a person. So what you can do is you can go into ChatGPT and say, hey, based on what you know of me, make a picture of what I think an ideal society would look like. And the guy on Reddit who first posted this, he prompted, create a photo of what society would look like if I was in charge, given my political views, philosophy, and moral standing, no matter how controversial. And the image it's created is basically techno-fascist. It looks like 1984 with drones flying around and everyone on their iPads in grey tunics and stuff like that. I think it's a really fun experiment. So I did this myself and I said, hey, based on what you know of me, Kyle, show me what a society would look like if I was in charge. And I'm quite happy with it. I got like a hyper-futuristic cityscape with lots of trees, lots of people looking pretty happy. Got lots of spaceships up in the sky. I don't know if they're shooting at each other, but it looks much more utopian than this poor Redditor who got this techno-fascist hellscape. My one looks like a utopia. They still have people on their tablets, but I'm quite happy with that. Definitely go and do that yourself. You use that prompt, create a photo of what society would look like if I was in charge, given my political views, philosophy and moral standing, no matter how controversial. See what ChatGPT comes up with for you. And there's some funny examples on Reddit of some guy who's living with the animals. Yeah, quite a few totalitarian ones. One that has no people in it, just a beautiful but barren landscape, so it suggests they don't like people. Do it yourself and tell me what you get in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube later. I'm gonna finish up this particular live. Everything is available on YouTube, and so there's going to be edited versions of the videos, so it's going to be easier to find the particular topics, and everything goes into the newsletter as well. It's written up, summarized. I give you the links. For example, today we covered the Wharton paper, and we covered Claude's potential introspection. I'll give you the links for the blog articles, the summaries, and the research papers, so that you can dig into those in depth if you want. Both are free, so make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. The newsletter, which is free as well, just follow the link in my bio. I'm on holiday right now, but I will do another live stream my normal Friday. I apologize for this lampshade up here, it's quite ugly. Hopefully the Airbnb host won't see this. I'll be back to normal next week. Thanks so much everybody, and I will see you